What's something you didn't want to do but did anyway? I agreed to be my terminally ill neighbor's fake grandson for his final weeks, and it became the most meaningful relationship of my life. Mr. Peterson lived alone next door, and had always been just a polite wave and occasional small talk. I knew he was elderly and had no family, but we weren't close. I was 25, busy with work and dating, barely had time for my own life. When hospice workers started coming to his house daily, I realized he was dying. I felt bad, but figured it wasn't really my business. We'd lived next to each other for 3 years without more than surface-level conversations. One afternoon, a hospice nurse knocked on my door looking frantic. Mr. Peterson was asking for his grandson, Michael, becoming agitated when told Michael wasn't coming. The nurse explained that Mr. Peterson had dementia and believed his estranged grandson would visit. He hasn't seen Michael in 15 years, she said, but he's convinced Michael is coming today. Would you consider just sitting with him for a few minutes? You're about the right age and it might calm him down. But that was just the beginning of the most unexpected journey of my life. I reluctantly agreed to sit with him for 20 minutes. When I walked into his bedroom, Mr. Peterson's face lit up like Christmas morning. Michael, you came! I knew you wouldn't forget your old grandpa. I started to correct him, but the nurse quickly shook her head. Playing along seemed kinder than breaking his heart in his final days. For 20 minutes, I listened to Mr. Peterson tell stories about my childhood, how proud he was of the man I'd become, how much he'd missed me. His joy was so genuine that I found myself wanting to stay longer. The nurse asked if I could come back the next day, then the day after that. Before I knew it, I was spending 2 hours every evening being Michael Peterson, the grandson who'd finally come home. Mr. Peterson would light up every time I arrived. He'd tell me about his work as a carpenter, show me old photos, and ask about my imaginary life. I started researching details about the real Michael so I could play the part better. What happened next changed my entire perspective on family and love. As the weeks went on, Mr. Peterson's stories revealed a man who'd lived an incredible life. He'd built houses for poor families for free, volunteered at schools teaching kids woodworking, and had been quietly helping neighbors for decades. He told me about the real Michael, his daughter's son who'd stopped visiting after a family argument 15 years ago. Mr. Peterson blamed himself, said he'd been too stubborn and proud to reach out first. I should have called him, he'd say. Pride is a stupid thing to die with. I started bringing photo albums and listening to his stories about my mother, his daughter who died in a car accident 10 years earlier. The pain in his voice when he talked about their unresolved issues was heartbreaking. Mr. Peterson began giving me things. His tools, photo albums, his father's watch. These should stay in the family, he'd say. I tried to refuse, but it made him so happy to pass things down to his grandson. 3 weeks into our routine, Mr. Peterson had a moment of clarity. He looked at me and said, "You're not Michael, are you?" I froze, terrified I'd been caught in a cruel deception, but he smiled and patted my hand. "Michael never would have come, but you did. That means more than you know." For the next hour, we talked as ourselves. Not grandfather and grandson, but two people who'd found an unexpected connection. He thanked me for giving him the chance to feel like a grandfather again. Mr. Peterson died peacefully 2 days later. In his will, he'd left me his house and everything in it. The note said, "To the young man who became the grandson I always needed. You gave an old man the greatest gift, feeling loved in his final days." I still live in his house. I kept all his tools and learned woodworking from the instruction books he left behind. Last month, I got a call from the real Michael. He'd heard about his grandfather's death and wanted to know if there was anything left of value in the house. I told him the house was occupied and hung up. Some families are born, others are chosen by showing up when it matters most.